Gluttony. Welcome back to my channel. This is the second in the 7 Deadly Sin Demon series that I am drawing currently. And this one is a big, fat, yellow, hungry dude. So just going to go into kind of the process that went into making this friendly looking little guy, and kind of explain my thought process on just the concepts behind it. So at this stage in the drawing, I am roughing in my loose sketch over my blue pencils, and I've established what basic color I'm going to be working with, the color palette of yellow. I felt like that should be the color of Gluttony. I did a little Googling, found a little color guide to each of the sins, and yellow came up for him, so I'm going to use yellow. And so the next part I am laying in now is some of the inking lines. At this point I'm still like finding the drawing. I add the inking lines roughly so I can get some sharper shapes, because the previous step was soft in establishing what it would look like, but there were no real hard edges to it. So once I was happy with that, I moved on to my brown lines, which are much cleaner, much more illustrative, very comic booky, which I was really liking how it was coming out, because I'm a big fan of Jim Lee and comic books and illustrations in general, but Jim Lee specifically. I always loved his cross hatching, his line work. So honestly, it kind of looks like a little bit like a comic book character here. So I was going with the cross hatching, the brown lines, and establishing the sharper, like really sharpening the image, making it kind of stand out, a little more unique, and so that it doesn't look as just like a generic demon. Stage is pretty important in the process, because it's really refining what the sketch is going to look like before I add my real hard lines in there and really commit to those final lines, because I'm still very much exploring it, and it gives me like a middle between the yellow and the black of the final lines, the yellow of the beast I'm drawing and the black of the line I'll be using to add the sharper details. Kind of brown is in that middle, so it gives me a little playroom when I'm lining and painting, because that color brown kind of works with both. It works both with the lines and the yellows, so it's pretty efficient in terms of coloring and lining by using that brown, and it gives me that sharper detail which I want. I know I'm going to be putting a tongue in there, but I did all the underneath stuff because I'm using the symmetry tool right now to go through and do all the highlights and all the stuff that's not the tongue. The tongue, he's only gonna have one tongue, because I can't do that with the symmetry tool in Procreate. So I wanted to do all the symmetrical stuff, and then in a new layer add the tongue, because I definitely wanted him to be gross. I wanted him to be licking his lips. I knew that. I wanted him to be gross and nasty. And I tried for sweaty. I couldn't get quite sweaty, so I ended up going kind of with a drooly and maybe like a little smelly. So if he looks smelly, that's good. I was kind of going for that. Yellow he kind of looks stinky. Kind of looks like Jabba the Hutt. I'm pretty happy with how he came out in general, and it's a big part of it is the tongue I'll add later on, which should be coming up pretty soon. I think I'm just going through and darkening, adding some of those black lines that I mentioned. There it is. I add a little bit of stinky green for the stinky breath that I would imagine he has. And here comes the tongue. This took a little bit for me to figure out the anatomy that I wanted to use for the tongue, because I didn't want to obscure too much of his face, because I had just put all that work into the face. So I needed that drool to be transparent and that tongue to not be too big and in the way, and make sense to go around his teeth, which are kind of like jagged and big, honestly. Anyway, add the all drool, make him super gross. That's my favorite part, like tightening up all the details. I had one too many white highlights and it looks like something else, so I kind of kick all those back. But he looks sufficiently gross. Remove some of the drool. And then I start tightening up the eyes and teeth, highlights, giving it that last little bit of pop, and really like tying it all together, putting those like the little frosting on the cake, you know. The cake's done. Just put the little frosting on there. I think I had some blacks, some low lights, not just highlights, some low lights, some blacks to really sharpen, pop it out. Back of the mouth, the eyebrows, hit up the horns, just bring him forward a little bit, make him look a little softer in the areas that don't have black, evil him out a little bit, add a little bit of black to the borders. Nice evil looking demon who's also got a bit of a weight issue, but that's okay. And then I sneak the word gluttony in the bottom there, so you'll see that in the illustration. That is it for this one. Thank you for watching my video. I'll see you in the next one.